So for this video, I want to try to do something a little different. I don't actually want to really talk about any specific apps or games. Just want to talk about VR in general from the perspective of someone who is still new at this and who just tried it, really, I would say. And I want to talk more towards someone who maybe hasn't tried VR or is just thinking about trying it. And I want to talk about things like questions that I had before I jumped into VR for the first time, concerns I had, some research that I've done, and mainly some topics that don't seem to be addressed, at least from a YouTube perspective. Before I jumped into VR for the first time, I learned about it through YouTube. I started seeing a lot of these YouTubers, these VR YouTubers, and I would see the games that they're playing and the different apps that they try, and it's it was interesting. A few things did pop up from watching them, and that is, for example, motion sickness. So depending on the person, they can have no motion sickness whatsoever. They can have mild symptoms, or it can get actually really bad to the point where VR just may not be for them, or at the very least certain apps may not be for them. Now, I never really had motion sickness in the real world, I would say, so I wasn't too concerned about that, but there were other things that I was concerned about. For example, with the Quest, there's a small population of individuals their eyes are either too far apart or too close together to actually work well with the headset. So that was something that I was concerned about, and you had to actually measure the distance between your pupils. I did that, and it showed me that I was kind of at the border. So I have to keep mine at, I believe it's 3 is the farthest away. And even then, it's not perfect. But it's usable, and I enjoy this headset, I really do. But there are certain apps that, especially the 3D type apps, the ones where they try to get a bit more realistic, certain videos where no matter what I do, it does kind of show blurred. And by blurred, I don't mean like out of focus. I mean, it's not perfectly aligned. So instead of seeing one image kind of put over the other, it's a little off. So it creates this weird effect that I have noticed over time can be a little disorienting and can even lead to headaches. Headaches is the other issue that a lot of YouTubers that I've watched that do VR, they don't really address. Maybe they don't have this issue, but it is there. Depending on, again, the person, you can actually have some really bad headaches just from sitting in VR. I would say about 2 weeks after I actually jumped into VR for the first time, I was still getting the hang of it. And I think I was actually kind of sick at the time. So I was already, not in the best condition. And I remember getting one of those pressure headaches. And I had the headset on. So I kept adjusting the headset. I didn't want to take it off because I wanted to enjoy it. It was still, new to me. I figured I'll play through it and it'll go away. It didn't go away. In fact, it got so bad that I took the headset off and I couldn't even see straight. I had this kind of sinus pressure and temple pressure around my face that it was so bad. I honestly thought that I was gonna have to, maybe call an ambulance or something, because I've never had a headache that bad before, and it did last for several hours. And when I didn't put the headset back on. Next day, I figured, okay, the headache is gone. Let me put on the headset. Almost immediately, I could feel the headache coming back. So that was a big problem, or that was going to be a big problem. Now, I think I fixed that problem, oddly enough, by just changing the head strap. So a lot of YouTubers will tell you, or you'll see them in the videos like I did, that the head strap it comes with, that the Quest 2 comes with, is just not really usable. It's not comfortable. That's the word that they always say. It's not comfortable. But very rarely have I heard them actually talk about the headaches that come about from wearing a headset like this, especially if it's not comfortable. I ended up getting one of those cheap Amazon head straps that it actually has like a support where it goes over the top of your head, or towards the top, towards your forehead. So it takes a lot of the weight and pressure off of your actual face. I have not had an issue since then. But again, this is one of those things that I kind of wish I had known about ahead of time. Not that it's anyone's responsibility to say this, but it would have been nice for someone to have made a video about that. So I figure, let's talk about it. Now, headaches is one thing, and a lot of that can be actually remedied with just changing the head strap and getting a setup that kind of balances out the headset more. Different people are going to have different experiences. Basically, you would just have to try something out and see if it works. I got lucky. After doing some research, I saw these aftermarket head straps that basically take all the pressure off your face, or most of it. And since that's where my headache was really originating from, I figured that would work, and sure enough, it did. Another thing you could do is get some kind of counterbalance, meaning maybe get as simple as an external battery pack to put in the back of the headset so that it pulls weight towards the back and not the front, so you're kind of tilting up a little more. That might also help. Now, the other thing that I was aware of, but not to the point where I was comfortable with the information, is the disorientation, the dizziness that could occur, the motion sickness. Now, again, I've never really had motion sickness, at least in the real world, so I figured I was okay. And for the most part, I am. But I notice what gets me disoriented would be, again, sometimes the images don't line up. That's more of a me thing. It's not so much motion sickness as it is, or I should say like an inner ear thing or anything like that. It's more just that my vision is going to be kind of almost like I'm cross-eyed, a little bit. Now, basically, I just avoid certain videos and apps. Now, I am going to do a video on, Meta TV, I think it's called, where within it they have a lot of animation videos, a lot of 3D type videos. I've already seen some of that. I didn't actually know that it was Meta TV. And a lot of them are really amazing looking, but some of them I just can't watch for more than 5 minutes because it messes me up so bad. And the reason, again, is I think because, again, my pupils aren't quite lined up with the lenses in the headset. I mean, it's good enough for stuff like this. But some of these 3D videos, it creates this blurriness and distortion that when you mix it with movement that you don't have control over, because you're just kind of you're seeing a movie that's moving, and you're moving with maybe the character. It can become too much, and I've had to actually just shut my eyes for a minute or two until I kind of don't feel sick anymore. That's something that people don't really talk about. So before you get a headset, before you get into virtual reality, I think you should know about that. I think you should do some more research, actually, because that's the last thing you want to do, is find out that you can't even enjoy it. Now, for the most part, I don't think it is a huge problem for most people, but it is something to consider. Now, the other thing is not so much the motion sickness, but just this disorienting feeling. And that occurs, for me at least, when I'm moving through space within VR. So I'm physically moving. I actually get up and I walk around. As long as the image doesn't shift around too much, it does, that it actually feels like a real space, and it doesn't feel like I'm in some kind of weird fun house where everything's swaying back and forth, I'm usually okay. But that's not always the case. If you turn your head, like right now, if I turn my head the way I'm doing, that loft area, that whatever, I guess that shelf area, it shifts. I don't know if it comes out on video, but when I do this, it almost distorts, like it's doing this, like it's swaying, like a tree in the breeze. That can get a little disorienting, at least I've noticed for myself. Sometimes just you're in a fixed position, but you are controlling the movement with the controllers, which I don't actually have on me right now. I decided to just go bare hands for now. Hand tracking is working really nice, I gotta say. But if you're actually just moving through a virtual space using the controller, the joystick, sometimes that can be a little disorienting. I'm hoping that's something that you just you overcome with time, with experience. Kind of like when you get on a boat for the first time, eventually you get used to it. It goes away, the disorienting feeling. But I have noticed that there's a few so far that I've tried where I'm moving forward in the virtual space, but I'm physically standing in place, or I'm kind of sitting. And what I'll find is, without realizing it, I will start leaning forward, as if I'm anticipating that I'm going to fall forward, so I lean forward to try to, rebalance myself. And again, that can be, a little disorienting. That's something that no one really talks about. Now, the other thing, besides the motion sickness, which there's some apps that I don't think anybody should use. Again, that's just my bias. Like these roller coaster apps. I will remake a video for it, because the first video I tried to make on a roller coaster app did not go well. It really made me sick. It was just awful. I don't expect it to be any different when I jump back in, but hopefully I can actually make a video on it so that I can explain what I'm feeling, so that others can have an understanding of that. But these are things that you really have to consider if you're gonna, buy a headset. Is this something that could affect you to the point where the actual device isn't usable? Eye strain is a big one. Sometimes there's just too much stimulus going on, and you don't realize it. Now, one of the best ways that I've found, or I should say the simplest ways that I found to remedy that, is to constantly blink, or at least to remind yourself to blink. It sounds strange, but no matter what, you're looking at a screen. To me, this looks like I'm in a room, a very nice room actually, but it's still a screen. You're still staring at a screen, and especially when there's a lot of stimuli. Right now, this is calm and peaceful. There's not a lot of things moving around, but in an actual game, there's always going to be something popping out at you. And a lot of times, what you're going to find is you're going to be so focused on all these changes, all this movement, that you're not going to blink. And that could also lead to headaches and disorientation. I've noticed that with certain sounds, certain apps, certain whatever you want to call it, the thing vibrates. Okay, these speakers that are like built into the little, the headset itself, they kind of vibrate, and it's producing sound so that you can hear, but at the same time, if it's too much vibration, you're gonna feel it on the side of your head. Now, that could be either a positive thing because it might reinforce, the feedback that you're experiencing, but it could also be just annoying. But it can also be, the most extreme part of it would be disorienting. And I found that that's what was happening. It would vibrate and it would just kind of just throw me off a little bit. Like I don't know if it's just, me personally that has this issue, but it would vibrate the side of my head, just close to my ears, and I would actually lose balance after a while if I wasn't careful. So there's another thing that I notice nobody really talks about is just things like that in general. Now, I think it's mainly because a lot of these YouTuber VR people, again, these are the channels that I watch that got me into VR, that got me interested in it, and actually got me into buying this headset. But I think they've been doing it for so long, they've gotten so used to it, that they have either forgotten about this problem or they just don't think it's something worth talking about. And with that, I'm also going to mention something else, which I wasn't sure if I want to mention, but some of those same VR channels, I notice I'm starting to lose interest in, because I'm starting to see something that I don't really appreciate. And that is, it seems like what they say in their videos isn't so much their honest opinion anymore as it is a biased opinion. And by biased, I mean, well, to put it just bluntly, they're kind of going with whoever is sponsoring them or whoever is giving them stuff. And they're singing praises that I don't know if I can trust. Okay. Now, some of these channels I watched, from the very beginning, it was Quest 2, Quest 2, Quest 2. Quest 2 is the most amazing thing. And you can use it with a PC, so it makes it even better. And all this high praise for it. And then all of a sudden now, PlayStation has a headset. And I get it, it's the newer thing, and it probably is better. But then all of a sudden, I see these YouTubers that are shifting over to this content, and they're making everything around that. And again, normally I would just say, oh, okay, well, that's their new experience, that's what they like. But what I'm noticing is you have these these VR YouTubers who are distinct and individual, separate from each other. They don't collaborate, and yet they're making the same exact video, almost, and they're saying the same exact things in the same exact words, almost. Now, sure, could just be a coincidence. They were all expressing it the same way because that's just how they see it. And yet, you have them from different backgrounds where normally their language isn't going to be exactly the same. And yet they're using keywords, the same keywords. And then you come to find out, oh, Sony happened to give them a PlayStation, a brand new PlayStation. Also, they gave them this headset. Also, they're sponsoring the video. And then the next string of videos that comes out is PlayStation related. And I would understand if it was, yes, this came out and now this came out, and they're kind of just going with what's coming out. But it's too organized. Meaning, let's say it's 5 different YouTubers. On the same day, they're coming out with the same content and they're saying the same things about it. And I have yet to hear any real negatives about anything that comes out. And these are the people that, when they talked about the Quest in the beginning, before they were affiliated with the Quest, with Meta, they would tell you what was positive and what was negative. And that's why, over time, I would actually trust their opinion. But now, I don't know so much anymore about that. That's just my little complaint. I don't know if that's just a fad and they're going to kind of go back to their normal content, or they're going to kind of take a step back and say, hey, I'm making a video that I feel like is being paid for, as opposed to something that I want to share with my viewers. Will I still watch them? Of course. I'm gonna watch, but am I gonna watch every video? Probably not. Am I going to trust every little thing they say, especially when it's really, really positive? Probably not. I'm gonna have to go and look elsewhere for what I would hope is more of an unbiased opinion, unbiased information when it comes to this stuff. But for now, the best I can do is just experience it for myself, and maybe share that with you if you're watching. So that's all I kind of wanted to say in this video. Mainly, I wanted to address the unexpected effects that VR has, and how you may not even know about it. Again, that's a big one. It probably doesn't show up in the video, but if I'm tricking myself into believing that this is a real 3-dimensional space that I'm in, and I look up and I just turn my head and the whole ceiling sways back and forth as if it's not a fixed object, as if it's just kind of, made of rubber almost, and it's moving around. Not only does that kind of ruin the effect a little bit, but it's disorienting. And when you just do it, when you just see it a little bit, it's not a big deal. But the more it happens, and then if you start mixing it with other effects that can be disorienting, sound, your own physical movement within the space, it can be overwhelming to a point where you're either going to start to feel sick, nauseated, or you might just start to feel dizzy, you might start to get a headache, and it might ruin the experience for you. I hope by sharing this, someone who might experience it for the first time will be prepared for it, so it won't be such a negative experience, and I hope they'll be able to continue to actually try and experience this. But that's all I have for you. So if you like this video, if you found what I said to be informative, hit the like button. If you want to see more, hit subscribe. And if you have any ideas, any recommendations, or you just want to see something that maybe you haven't seen before, maybe someone else hasn't done yet, or you just want to see a different perspective of it, leave it in the comments. Let me know. And with any luck, I'll see you again in the next one. And until then, take care.